Alright, today we're going to model a funnel, and we're still going to do this in the browser environment to help those of you at home working with just a Chromebook. So I've already put my document into inches mode and saved it as funnel. So let's go ahead and start sketching. So let's draw a circle centered at the origin with a diameter of 1/2 inch. We can stop our sketch. And then let's do an offset plane off the ground plane here, and let's go offset 1.5 inches. Put a new sketch on that plane. Again, make sure I get it centered at the origin. It looks like to be a diameter of about 0.75 inches, 3/4 of an inch. We can stop that sketch. Let's go ahead and loft between those. So we'll select our two profiles and loft and join them together. Now I could have done this as a revolve, but you'll see in a moment why I want to do this as a loft. So to keep this shape going, I'm going to need another offset plane, and let's go up a height of 4 inches. Sketch on that plane, a diameter of 4 inches. And do an additional loft, a second loft. Make sure I want to join between those two. And now my funnel looks pretty good so far. In order to get it hollowed out, I can do a shell, of course, and it looks like to be about a 1/16 of an inch thick of ABS plastic. I want to make sure that I select the top and bottom so it's shell that goes all the way through. And when I do that, I notice, it doesn't go all the way through. It left a little bit of skin here at these two pieces. That's kind of a little irritating problem. That should not happen if you built this properly in the PC environment, but on this, it's a little bit glitchy. So if you notice, if you extend your bodies, you notice that I have two bodies here. So even though I did that second loft as a join and I didn't tell it to do a new body, even though I did that, it still created two bodies in the browser history. So what I'm going to need to do, I'm going to need to, let's just delete that shell. Under the Modify panel, we're going to use the Combine tool. And first I'm going to select the target body. So I want to join those two bodies together and say OK. So now I have a single body. So now when I go and execute my shell command, it should shell out. So now the shell has created a hole entirely through the funnel. The next part of this I'm going to try to tackle is this little rib that runs along the side of the funnel. And there's actually 4 of them. So that makes the part a lot stronger. And that's also why I built this as a loft rather than a revolve, because I can utilize my prior sketches and turn the visibility on to draw my geometry without drawing a new sketch. So let's go in and edit that very first sketch of the 1/2 inch diameter circle. And you're going to want to get good eyes and zoom in. And we're going to start off just by drawing with the line tool. I'm going to draw a horizontal line, then a vertical line, and then a horizontal line. Hit escape to get you out of the tool. Let's center that up on the side of the circle just by making those two lines equal to each other. And then we can go in and add some dimensions. So we're going to estimate that to be about 40 thousandths of an inch. And then the depth of each of those, we're going to estimate at about 20 thousandths of an inch. So you can see that's just a very small, almost a rectangle, but it allows us to use that circular geometry there. So we'll go ahead and stop the sketch. Okay, now let's turn on the visibility of our second sketch. Go in and edit it, and we're going to need to redraw that exact same profile in this sketch with the 1/2 inch diameter circle. Stop the sketch, and let's create a loft. So we got to get good eyes to do this. Make sure we zoom in and get only those 2 profiles that we need. There we go. And again, I'm selecting this to be a join. I say OK. And I'm afraid what's going to happen with this is it's going to create a new body. And it did. That's okay. We're going to use that a little bit to our advantage here. So next thing we need to do is we need to redraw that sketch for that profile in my 4-inch diameter circle. So let's again get some good eyes and zoom in and use the line tool here. Stop the sketch. Let's create another loft. Picking the top face of the first part of that rib that we've created. And now let's go up to that top little rectangular sketch that I've got and select join. And then under modify, let's put a 10/1000 fillet on each of those edges. All right, so that rounds those off nicely. Next, on the modify panel, I'm going to combine those 2 ribs into a single rib. So I want to make sure I zoom in and select those 2 ribs to join into a single body. So now I still have a separate body, but that one of those ribs is reflected in a single body now instead of being 2 separate bodies. Under the create panel, I'm going to now do a circular pattern. In the PC version, I would usually pattern the feature, but in this case, I only have the option of faces or bodies. So in this case, I want to pattern the bodies, and we want to make sure we go in and be able to select that rib as the body, and then select the axis to rotate around, which we can pick from the origin. And we want to pattern 4 times. So we say OK, and now I have 4 ribs all the way around the funnel. And now we want to combine those separate bodies into a single body again. So we'll use the modify panel, combine, and for the target body, we're going to want to select the overall funnel. And then we're going to need to zoom in and get all those other bodies there to join into a single body. All right, finally, we'll be able to start working on the top of this funnel. There's a little bit of a lip around the top along with a little tab with a hole in it that would allow you to hang it up on a hook. So let's start out by drawing a sketch on the top face. Let's go ahead and project the geometry of that lip. Let's draw a circle centered at the origin of 4.25 inches. Stop our sketch, extrude the lip plus that outer ring, and we'll extrude that a distance of 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. So now there's a lip at the top of the funnel. Finally, we're just going to add a tab onto that. So let's do a sketch on that top face that we just drew. And that tab appears to be like trapezoidal in shape. So that's what I'm going to start drawing. I'm going to draw a isosceles trapezoid here. It's going to connect up to the object. And now I'm going to need to use some geometry to kind of clean this up. So let's start out with an equals constraint on those two lines. And let's do a trim and trim the inner part there. And let's do an equals constraint on those two edges and the two edges on the sides. There we go. So that pretty much has that centered up for the tab, and now we should be able to just go in and add some dimensions. So let's make that dimension. Looks like it sticks out from the edge about 1/10 of an inch. I think the distance from here to here appears to be about 1.25 inches. The distance from the inside of that appears to be about 1 inch. And then this distance here is also 1 inch. And after looking at that, that doesn't look like 1 inch. It looks to be like 3/4 of an inch. So I'll just change that number. That looks better. And finally, the height of that trapezoid appears to be about 1/2 inch. So now I could stop the sketch and extrude that. And we'll extrude that as a join, distance to that bottom surface, and say okay, and there we go. And now all we have left is to just drill that hole. In order to drill the hole in the browser-based version, we need a sketch with a point on it. So we'll go ahead and just point in there and dimension it. And it appears to be about 1/4 of an inch. It's in the middle of the trapezoidal piece. Stop the sketch, create a hole using that center point. Diameter of the hole 0.375 inches. And we can do distance through all. And finally, we might want to add a few more fillets to dress this up. Let's try a 0.05 fillet on all of these corners here. Okay, that looks pretty good. And let's also, as it is on the part itself, let's add a fillet to that whole top edge of same size, 0.05. And there's the funnel.